Let's get started. I am Fran Gibson, President of Rossmoor Emergency Preparedness Organization. I'm delighted to see all of you here this morning. We have people also on Zooming with us. If you have a question for one of our 5 panelists, please raise your hand, and Nancy Herney in the back of the room will bring you an index card. Write your question there, hold your question up again, and she'll collect it so that we can wait until the end of the meeting to do the questions to the panelists. We won't interrupt the flow of the meeting that way. This is great to see everybody in person again. It's been more than 2 years, and this is marvelous. I am delighted. This is great. I wanted to begin by telling you next month's meeting, June 6th, is going to be on calling 911 and calling 211. And I just had a wonderful discussion with Steve over the difference between when Securitas gets called, when we really should be calling 911. So this will be a helpful meeting for us. Our new police chief, Chief Jamie Knox, will be with us here in person for that meeting. Tori Maxfield, who is the dispatch supervisor at the 911 desk, will be here with us in person, and Drew Olson, our new Sector 1 commander, will be with us in person. So I'm looking forward to that meeting, and for all of you who are not aware, we post our meetings on Rossmoor EPO's website. It is a targeted website. I spent the first 2 years of my life in EPO developing that website as the content manager. So go to rossmoorepo.org, and our meetings are posted there, and you'll know what's upcoming. If you have not signed up as you leave here today, please sign up at the desk outside, and we'll put you on our email blast list so you can get our announcements and you can get personal information about how to get prepared. We're going into, if not already there, a very difficult new wildfire season. We had a wonderful meeting last Wednesday, community meeting. Tom Cashion deserves a great deal of praise and gratitude and thanks for the wonderful meeting that he helped put together with city officials. So we know we're in the 3rd year of a mega drought. We know that temperatures are rising. We'll have more extreme heat events this summer here in Rossmoor than we've ever had before. I stop and think I organized my North Berkeley neighborhood before I moved to Rossmoor 7 years ago, and I think about the things that I worried about when I first moved here and the hazards and risks we face today. So the new climate regime that we're in all over the West and all over the world is bringing us higher temperatures, bigger storms, and certainly wildfires. We have wildfires in the Southwest even today. So if you have not gotten your grab-and-go bag together, please do. You need a grab-and-go bag for every member of your household, including your pets. And do you have an evacuation plan? Do you know where you would go? Do you have 2 destinations in mind? Have you talked with those people and exchanged the possibility? I have 3 destinations. One would be my daughter's house in Oakland, but if I can't get there because of the event or the incident, I can get to Danville or get to Walnut Creek, and I have given those people the opportunity to come to me in Rossmoor if they are impacted and have to evacuate. So we need to be prepared, and you cannot get a grab-and-go bag together in 15 minutes, I promise you. You can't do it, but you can do it if you do it a little bit every week. Make sure you have that, and make sure you have one for your pets, and that you have an evacuation plan, and that you have a person 200 miles or further from here that you could text and say, I'm okay, and they then will text or call the people who are on your list, your family and friends here. We want to save telephone communications when we have a major incident or event here in Rossmoor. We want to save those communication channels for first responders. So we're delighted to have Golden Rain Foundation here as we do every year. and they will be talking to us about the emergency preparedness operations that they do. And it will be an annual event that we will have them come every year and speak to us about their limited but vital role in emergency preparedness. So what I'd like to do first is just to do the introductions, and then we'll turn it over to them. Tim O'Keefe is our Chief Executive Officer. He came to us in November of 2015 after spending 9 years as Executive Director of Shelter Incorporated, which is a Concord-based nonprofit serving the working poor, homeless residents in our county. He served a decade as CFO of America's largest manager of homeowner associations and active retirement communities. So Tim knows the score. He holds a BA in Business Administration from Cal Poly and served as the past president of the Human Services Alliance of Contra Costa County. He's currently a board member of Community Managers International Association, and that's quite a bullet on his resume, in my opinion. He's earned my recognition and appreciation. My graduate training and experience is in public health, and then 2 months after I became president of EPO, the pandemic hit. Tim and GRF have received an award for their marvelous primary prevention program that they put in place immediately as soon as the pandemic hit. We are, of course, those of us 65 and above are at the greatest risk of any type of COVID case we might get, whether we got it originally before we got vaccinated or like me, I had a breakthrough case, and that's why last month's meeting was canceled. So Tim has earned my respect as a community health educator. I've never seen a better community effort that resulted in primary prevention. Lives were literally saved here because of his and GRF's efforts, and we thank you for that. Tom Cashion is he's not new. He's the second in our 58-year history of Rossmoor, serving as our public safety manager. And he inherited a marvelous foundation that Dennis Bell built and operated for his 12 years when he was with us. Tom is taking it further and further. He has innovation, dynamism, vision, proaction, and a keen eye toward the changes we face with the mounting and unremitting climate regime we're now in. His early stated measurable goal was to make Rossmoor the safest retirement community in all California, which directly inspired me to have our new motto, towards a readier Rossmoor. So, Tom, we are glad you're here, and again, Tom deserves a great deal of applause for that wonderful community meeting that he helped orchestrate last Wednesday. Steve Bertolozzi is here, our new Securitas site manager. He proclaimed in his first month as our new Securitas manager that his goal is making residents feel safe. He came out of retirement as a lieutenant in the Walnut Creek Police Department, and he was pulled back out of retirement to take on this fresh challenge. And Steve, which really impresses me, has what I would call an open door sign on his office. If you are a resident here and you have concerns about the main gate or the role of Securitas, Steve is there to listen. He considers residents his eyes and ears, and he listens to our concerns and knows that public safety is very important to our community. So Steve, welcome. John T. is here. I don't know that I'll try one more time, John. John Tawaststjerna? Close enough? John is our new landscape manager. He's standing on the strong shoulders of Rebecca Pollen. And John knows Rossmoor, has worked here for 5 years before taking this job. And he worked with Brightview and directly with Rebecca. And he intends to plans to build on Rebecca Pollen's wonderful 5-year plan for stewarding the natural resources we have here. And of course, John's work has direct implications for wildfire resiliency in our community. So John, we welcome you to the community and we're delighted you're here today. And then there's Dwight Walker, who is president of Golden Reigns Board of Directors. And Dwight Walker includes 3 decades as a radio executive for a major broadcast company. He holds a business degree in accounting from Shippensburg University and worked as a CPA with Ernst & Young for 6 years. He and Barbara and family moved to Walnut Creek, and he's lived in Rossmoor for the last 6 years. He served as his board president for Mutual 68. Mutual 68 is the mutual that will be evacuated on early Sunday morning on May 15th. Dwight impressed me very early on when I began to meet the EPO team there, led by Ralph Anthenian, who is an amazing organizer. And Ralph had Dwight's full support for the emergency preparedness he was doing for his 233 homes there and 350-something residents. So that is the mutual that will be the subject of our evacuation on May 15th, and we are delighted to have Dwight as president of Golden Reign Foundation's board. I often tell him if I need to channel a good person who has absolutely wonderful meeting management skills, it would be Dwight Walker. He herds cats very well. So let's give an applause to all these people and welcome them. And we'll start off with Tim O'Keefe, who will have some comments to give us on the operations of emergency management from the perspective of Golden Reign.
There we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. So I've been asked, Fran had asked me to speak about emergency operations here at the Golden Reign Foundation and how this might evolve over the next 5 years. Last Wednesday was the evacuation, kind of the prep meeting. Can I ask just a quick show of hands, how many people attended? All right, that's excellent. And I'm sure many others that are probably watching on Zoom, I'm sure were there too. It was nearly a full house, I think. So as you all know, EPO is an integral part of our disaster and emergency preparedness here in Rossmoor. And I want to thank all of you for both your interest in that, your participation, the time that all of you spend helping the greater Rossmoor community get ready for a potential disaster. So in talking about the emergency operations plan here and our preparedness for that, I wanted to, really last week's event was kind of the culmination of several years of planning. So as I think Tom mentioned at the meeting, the drill, or the meeting that we had yesterday, last week in preparation for the May 15th evacuation drill, the drill was originally scheduled to be done in April of 2020. So we had planned that for quite a long time with all the various players, the Con Fire, City of Walnut Creek, Office of Emergency Services, the Police Department, EPO, and then of course the pandemic came around in March, and that all got waylaid. So I want to back up why we even got to that place, just to give you some of that perspective. So in, I think it was 2018, we followed the Santa Rosa fires in 2017, and Santa Rosa and Napa fires, which were devastating. And then in 2018 was the Paradise Fire. And I think the combination of those two very significant events really raised everyone's awareness around wildfire being a risk to the Rossmoor community. And prior to that era, we'll call it, our emergency operations plan that Dennis Bell had written several years previous to that did not address specifically wildfire. So as a result of Santa Rosa and Paradise, we decided to update our emergency operations plan and actually incorporate planning for wildfire. In addition, GRF had, I think, spent about $30,000 or $40,000 a year on wildfire mitigation on our open spaces. And so at that same time, we invested in an update to the emergency operations plan, hired a consultant to help us with that, and then also more than doubled our investment in annual wildfire mitigation as a part of the annual operating budget. The consultant, we conducted a number of workshops in the community, lots of input and participation from residents. The consultant coordinated with Contra Costa Fire Protection District, with the Walnut Creek Police Department, with American Red Cross, EPO, CERT, and probably, including the wildfire, addressing the absence of wildfire planning in the document, probably the most significant thing that came out of that was the development of emergency, what is the term we're calling them? Emergency management zones, I blanked out. The emergency management zones divided Rossmoor up into zones. And then you've seen in your entry a small sign about that big that will identify which zone you live in, so that in the event of a disaster or an evacuation, the first responders and the emergency civil authorities will identify which zones are going to be evacuated. It's unlikely that it will be all zones. But that was probably the most significant thing that came out of that. And then the various civil authorities, the police department, the fire department, Office of Emergency Services, have all adopted those zones as the actual evacuation zones. We weren't allowed to call them evacuation zones in our emergency operations plan. That was by a directive from the fire marshal, because GRF has no legal ability or authority to actually evacuate anybody. That's the responsibility of the civil authorities. So all of that, I think, rolls us then to today and for the next 5 years. So I can tell you that what we will continue to do is invest in the emergency operations plan. So planning is key to being prepared. We will continue to update that plan as time goes on. We will also continue to invest in community awareness. We will continue to coordinate and invest in fire mitigation efforts, coordinate and collaborate with the city, the county, ConFire, CERT, Red Cross, and EPO. We will continue to invest in fire mitigation efforts on GRF property, and we will encourage the mutuals to do the same. Now, one thing that we can't do is we can't tell the mutuals to do things around fire mitigation. Everybody's aware and concerned. But there's vegetation, different types of vegetation that have been allowed to grow for decades that it would be very expensive to remove. So the mutuals are generally methodically going through and removing them, but they can't do it all at once. For example, eucalyptus trees or junipers or some of these things that are more conducive, fire-friendly, I guess. So the mutuals are taking steps to remove them. We can't direct them to do that. Those boards are independent. They have to make those decisions to do that on their own. But we will continue to encourage them to do that. So I want to thank all of you for being here today, and especially for EPO and your efforts in keeping the Rossmoor community informed and prepared, and especially for Fran Gibson and her leadership. It's taken, I think, EPO to a whole nother level these last few years. So I want to thank you all for that. So with that, am I turning it over to the next speaker? All right. Tom is next. All right, Tom Cashion. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is good stuff. Gotta admit, I love our EPO group, so this is great to see you guys in person instead of on Zoom. You look a lot better in 3D. Just want to share that with you. So I'm Tom Cashion. I'm the Public Safety Manager. I've been here just over a year, and my role is really to protect the community from fire, tornadoes, dinosaurs, sharks, all of that. So I threw it all in there. The line one, that's crime. I don't know if you noticed, but that's when we arrest people. We put them against that bar graph to see how tall they are. So anyways. All right, let's get started. Just a little bio of me. Retired captain from the Walnut Creek Police Department, just over 24 years there. I was assistant commander to our Central County Regional SWAT team, did that for about 11 years. Bomb squad manager for about 4 years. Terrorism liaison. Thank you, liaison officer for 4 years, And then I got a master's degree from California State University. Any Hornets in here? Yeah, woo! Sting her up. And then I got some other stuff. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is pretty much three things. Thanks to Fran. Fran's always wonderful about letting me know, this is what I want you to cover. So it makes it easier for me, and sometimes she even gives me bullet points. So she didn't do this slideshow, just to let you know. I tried to ask her to do it. She goes, no, that's your job, Tom. So we're going to talk about the revised emergency operation plan. I know CEO Tim O'Keefe just talked about that. It's being revised right now, thanks to Fran. Fran is an incredible editor, so if you're ever going to write a book, run it by her first. She does a great job, and then Marcia also gave me some input, as well as Margaret, who is the CERT coordinator for the city. She also gave me some really good input. So just to let you know, right now I'm just going through the edits. We use a consultant to help us, and he's already got those back to me. And so then next is actually to go to our senior management team, get them to sign off. So I'm hoping by the end of summer, we'll have a brand new one. It's not brand new, I shouldn't say that. It's an updated version, because this one was excellent. This one was just fantastic, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to it. We're going to talk about the wildfire risk reduction, things that we've been doing here, and then evacuation. So on the EOP, our Emergency Operations Plan, like Tim said, it was made up of all these different agencies. We met almost every month with the consultant and really devised, I think, an excellent plan. If you haven't seen it, please go to rossmoor.com. It's at the bottom, and you can look at it and get to know it a little better. And then our update is actually going to be a change for, remember we talked about emergency management zones. We weren't allowed to call them evacuation zones. Well, now the city's agreed, the fire department's agreed, and everybody else has agreed to call them that. So now that's the biggest change that you'll see in there. And then also Zone Haven. Has anybody heard of Zone Haven? Ooh, wow, this is, okay, we got to do a little better on this. Okay, so we're split up into 8 zones, correct? And we'll go over that a little bit later. Zone Haven is the one who actually we use to broadcast the zones, and that's what the civil authorities will use to identify which zones to notify when they need to be evacuated. So we'll go over that a little bit later. Get you a little more familiar with that. Okay. What have we done here, Tom? Come on, you've been here a year. You done anything? Get off your butt. Did you do anything? Well, there's a few things we did in regards to wildfire safety. So here's some of the things I wrote down. We started the presentations last year. I'm sure you saw them in the wildfire presentations. We did a total of 4 or 5. We brought in experts every month to talk about wildfire and how to prevent it and how to protect yourself from it. So we did all those. Those were really good ways to get some knowledge out into the community and have the community ask questions. And, you know, with education, you tend to feel safer. And so that's what we were trying to do. We created the Rossmoor Emergency Planning Group. So we meet monthly. Geez, sorry. Feel bad coughing when COVID's still going around. We meet monthly, and it's the Walnut Creek Police Department, City of Walnut Creek, it's Con Fire, Office of Emergency Services for the county, Red Cross, EPO, well, sometimes EPO's there. I think that covered everybody. So we discussed what's going on in Rossmoor, safety things that happen in Rossmoor. So that was the same kind of group that you saw on Wednesday. That was that group that meets every month to talk about Rossmoor and only Rossmoor. So we're able to have a more of a say and a voice with our city leaders and stuff, so it's been fantastic. Vegetation mitigation, which exceeds Con Fire requirements, and that's thanks to John T. and his fine crew. You know, Rebecca Poland really kicked that off, and then now it's in John's hands. And it's because of their work, we're making Rossmoor safer all the time. Vegetation replacement, same thing. And then Con Fire, CAL FIRE partnerships and grants. I'm sure you guys heard about the $5 million grant that the Con Fire applied for. We should know here in the summer if we got it, and then that will reduce fire ladder fuels all along the rim of Rossmoor. It's pretty significant, so really excited about that. Just so you know, no, we're not cutting down all the trees. No, we're not making a 25-foot pavement up there. That's not what's going to happen. You know, so if you want to know more, you can actually look it up. It's also been in the Rossmoor News. They have a really good article that talks more about that. Red flag warnings via Nixle and red flag at the gate. So now we broadcast those through Nixle, and then you'll see a red flag at the gate right below Old Glory, and that's thanks to Steve and his crew. They put it up whenever there's a red flag warning to remind everybody about that. In the red flag warnings, everybody knows that we got to be extra careful. When that happens, it's a good reminder, like Fran talks about, what's your plan? If a fire kicks off during a red flag day, it moves very quickly. So what is your plan? So start thinking about those things when red flags come off. And maybe check your go bag, and check it out, make sure it's all perfect for you. We also started can anybody hold up their card, the ready, set, go, and evacuation card? Anybody hold that up? How about you? It's sitting right on your lap. Or you, there we go. All right, so that is the ready, set, go on one side, ready, set, go, thank you. The fire departments across the nation use ready, set, go to help prepare people for wildfire, as well as what to do in a wildfire. So one thing that's added on there that's new this year on the front of it is we added some QR codes to help you get more information. You just use your phone, put it on camera mode, and you'll see it'll give you a link. You press the link on your phone, and it'll take you to that link. So kind of some good stuff on there. But we also talked about the golf course. So I know probably, 4 years ago, Marshall was his name. Yeah, he came out here from Confire, and his delivery was probably not the best about what to do in a wildfire, and it was kind of received as, everybody just go to the golf course. You'll be fine, just go to the golf course. Hopefully that's not him right now. All right, good. So there is truth that a golf course is a safe place to go, but it's the last place to go. So if you cannot get out of our community, by all means, go to the golf course. So if all the exits are blocked, go to the golf course. It is a much safer place to be than in your mutual or in your residence or manor. So remember that. If you get stuck and you can't get out of here, by all means, get on that golf course. We see it time and time again that golf courses are a safe place to be. That's the only place that doesn't get burnt. I got deployed to Santa Rosa, the Santa Rosa fires, and right in the middle of this devastation was this beautiful golf course. The trees on the golf course weren't touched. The greens weren't touched. The buildings on the golf course weren't touched. So I've seen it in my own eyes. So remember that. That is, through our whole valley, that is a safe zone. Obviously, that's your last place to go, though. Try to get out. All right. On that card, though, this year, we updated it. So on the back side, you'll see that we made the map a little bigger so you can see it. I know it's still hard to see some of the entries. You got to put on your readers and stuff like that. I get that. It's just so hard. I can't make a big, huge card. Those will be going out in the Rossmoor News here in a few months. Actually, next month. And so you'll get more of those. But it's an updated card. There's still, like anything, there is a couple of mistakes. One is the QR code for CWS and Nixle. It's actually the same QR code and takes you to CWS, which is the county warning system. They're the ones that if there's an evacuation, they're going to be able to see what phones are in that zone, and they call those phone numbers and say, it's time for you to leave. This is mandatory evacuation. So, but Nixle, if you want to, anybody not signed up for Nixle? Perfect. All right, see, I don't have to tell you, but it is on rossmoor.com at the bottom. You go to Nixle, you click on it, and you can sign up for Nixle there to get some information. And I encourage you to also sign up for the city's Nixle. So the one at Rossmoor, that's the one that I handled, except for I don't do the water ones. I know everybody hates the water ones. That's not me. I do all the other ones, though. So, so I encourage you to sign up for the Walnut Creek Police one, which is through the city, and because that's another one to get really good, valuable information from. Okay. Let's see, what other things did we do? Shady Glen and Sportsman Park, I don't know if you realized it, but we did close that down last summer thanks to the board. I went to the board and I asked for emergency shutdown for that, and they granted it. It was just too dangerous. We had barbecues in dry grass areas. We had one barbecue right underneath a tree where the branch went right across the barbecue. It just wasn't a safe spot. So we closed it down, and now I presented it to the planning committee, and now it's going to go to the board, some policy review and stuff like that to try to make it safer. We already have removed all those barbecues that were in bad areas or dangerous areas. Now there's only 3 in Shady Glen. They're surrounded by concrete, so much safer. And we have fire extinguishers now going in. We have a longer hose, and then we have more information when you reserve it, because you have to reserve it. so that hopefully we never have a fire in that area. So more news about that later. Then participation in EPO and CERT, including some funding. So we always a great partner with EPO. They've been fantastic for me. It helps me get out the word, and as well as them getting the word out. They do a fantastic job. And Fran has been fantastic. I mean, I haven't seen a stronger leader in probably any organization other than Fran. She does a fantastic job, and as you know, she's an excellent speaker. So we're very lucky to have Fran. So I'm going to miss her at the end of this year. It's going to be hard. Okay, and then replaced all the locks on access points and roads. So what I did when I first got here, I went and explored all the roads, these access roads. So access roads, they're just that. They're access roads for the fire department to bring in all their big trucks, machinery, if there's ever a fire in here. That's what they're designed for. Some people call them fire roads, and on some of them you'll see them even marked as called fire roads, and then there's some numbers below it. That's what Contra Costa County Fire Protection uses to identify that. So I went around to all of them, and I checked out the locks that are ours. There's fire locks, there's East Bay mud locks, there's locks, I don't know, PG&Es on there as well. So I went up and I checked ours, and ours were pretty darn old. And so I went ahead and replaced them all. We also had an issue with some kind of the sagging chains, so we marked those so people don't trip over them to make it a little bit safer, because people like to go hike in those areas. So now we have all new locks, and we share that with the Walnut Creek Police Department. So they have our combination to all of those as well, so that if they need to open it, they can. Wildfire cameras, so far we've had 2 that are installed. We have one that is up on the big hill off of Lucas Drive. So if you go up Stanley Dollar, that turns into Lucas. And then up to the right, there's a big communication tower. So that has one of the wildfire cameras. And if you go to alert wildfire, is that right? I think that's it, alert wildfire online. You can see that view of that. So that covers its shooting essentially to the east of our community. It's on the west side, it's shooting east, and it covers a pretty big span. You can't operate it, but the first responders, Confire can operate it, Walnut Creek Police can, all these other places can operate it and move it around. It's an incredible camera. Lafayette PD was showing me, they're the ones who actually installed it up there. And we were able to zoom into a license plate, which was at the MOD. So really fantastic cameras. And so under this program, they're free. These cameras are free, which is great. PG&E donates money to this program. Other people donate money. And then we get a $5,000 camera for free. And then thanks to Lafayette PD, shout out to them, they install them for us. So that's the first one that went up. The second one we went up is over off of Terra Granada, just past Gray Eagle. On the right, there's a pump house. And if you look, you'll see a camera on top of a light pole. So that's our number 2 one. And then that covers everything looking to the west, including Las Trampas, which is great because Las Trampas is a wilderness area. We want to know if there's a fire kicking off in there. That's a dangerous area. So we have that. And then the third one that hasn't gone up yet, but it will be going up hopefully before summer, and that is off of Sakhalin Indian. Anybody live up on Sakhalin Indian? All right, we're doing it just for Dwight.
It's good to be present.
Yeah, he goes, I want a camera here. So anyways, if you've been up to Sakhalin Indian, there's a big canyon there. It is actually part of the state responsibility area, so that's CAL FIRE. So that's why, and if you were at the community meeting on Wednesday, they talked about this. That actually penetrates into our property, that area does. So that's why CAL FIRE always shows up whenever there's a grass fire. They show up with Contra Costa County Fire Protection District as well. So it's kind of cool we get 2 fire places at the same time. It's also good because they can respond to other areas that are not in the state responsibility area, but they have to get permission from the state to do that. Now they can automatically just go. So that's why you see that. So it's good for us. But it is a dangerous area. We have big power lines going across that canyon. That canyon is very dense with a lot of different kind of vegetation that is very lightable, lack of a better term. So we're also looking at doing the grant will cover part of that area, but we want to also look at some other grants that might work in that canyon down below. Okay. All right, just here's some other stuff that's going on. 2 new rules. One is open flames during red flag warning days that I kind of told you a little bit about. This is going to prohibit you to have any kind of open flame throughout anywhere on GRF property. So we're only responsible for GRF property, and we can't, like Tim said, we can't tell the mutuals what to do. So the mutuals have their own policies and procedures. So this is going to apply to any GRF property throughout here. The other thing is Rule 118, and what that is prohibited smoking. So the City of Walnut Creek passed an ordinance back in, I think the first one was 2008, then they did one in 2013, updated it. And what it said is pretty much no smoking downtown. You weren't allowed to smoke downtown. You weren't allowed to smoke 25 feet of entrances. And you weren't allowed to smoke in their open spaces, their trails, their parks, all of that. Well, there was a big gap between Rossmoor and that. Obviously, there's reasons why, and a lot of it is for health concerns, but also fire concerns. So the city restricted it all in their open spaces, but that did not apply to private open spaces, which is us, GRF. So trying to fill that gap right now. Right now we are in the policy committee right now. Once we get through the policy committee, it'll go on to the board to adopt, and then there's some readings that have to happen. But eventually you will not be able to smoke on any open space areas. Maybe the golf course. The city does cut out an exemption for the golf course for cigars. People like to smoke cigars while they're playing golf on the golf course. So we'll see if that's actually going to happen here as well. So more information about that in the future. All right, let's talk about evacuations, a little bit more about evacuations. If you can see, there I am looking younger, had more hair. There's Dennis in the background going, ha, 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 you're going to take over something. So anyways, this is what we've done. We did a community meeting last Wednesday. We got the actual live evacuation drill on May 15th. That is only one zone. The city wanted to do just one zone to start out. We hope in the future to do more. So, but at least we're going to check their systems and make sure they work as well as ours. So it'll be a good exercise to see how everything works. Public safety responsibilities, that's kind of part of it. Alternate exits, I'll talk about that in a minute. And then updated Rossmoor's evacuation card, kind of already covered that. There's that card. All right, know your zone. Who knows their zone? Okay. For the people who didn't raise their hand, do you live in an entry? Anyone? I saw some that didn't raise their hand. Okay, so let's talk about entry. If you look on the right, every entry has a WCR and then a number on the actual entry. So when you're pulling into your residence or your entry or you're leaving, you should be able to see that, right? And then on every street, as you're driving to your residence, there's a thing that says either you are entering, evacuation zone WCR, in this case 002, or you'll just see WCR and then the number, and it'll be in a color-coded thing. We're actually changing those out because I want them all to say you're entering, because if there's guests here or someone staying at your house and they may not know what those numbers mean, I want it to be very clear that you are entering a zone, an evacuation zone, and this is it for your own safety. So those have gone up. I'm glad to see really probably 90% of people raise their hands in here. That's great. If you could do me a favor and ask your neighbor if they know their zone. If they don't, can you share it with them so that they know as well? Right? We look after our neighbors and take care of our neighbors, and so that'd be great. Okay, emergency access roads. Do we have an emergency access road here in Rossmoor, or is there just one way in, one way out? Anybody? I'm sorry? Tawaststjerna. Yes, you're absolutely right. So if you look on the map where it says Lafayette on the top, that is an authorized emergency evacuation road that the civil authorities, really Walnut Creek Police Department, will open if they need to. So that means don't go there unless the Walnut Creek Police Department told you to go there, right? You don't want to get up there and go, oh, it's not open. Don't want to do that. Obviously, the first way out is through our main gate. But if the case happens that they need to open up that road, or maybe open up some of the access roads, they can do it. So if you look at this, thanks to Susan, she put this together for me. But if you look, there's color-coded, right? You see the yellow is passable for autos, red is impassable for autos. Do I have a table, right? Impassable is red, yellow is passable. So here is Stanley Dollar Drive, and then it goes into Lucas. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody drive up there yet? Yeah? Yeah, okay, you get to the gate here, so you can't go any further, but you can walk. You go around the gate and walk if you want to see it, or you can come up the other side. There used to be a gate on that side that has been taken down, but there's some new homes up here, so it's a good way for you to kind of orientate, just so you know what's going to happen. If the fire is over here, though, this will not be open, right? They're not going to direct you to there. So here we have some other ones up here. The problem with these up here, they all go out to Tice Valley. So really all we're doing is sending everybody to one road. But if the front gate is blocked, it does gives us some options to move people on out that way. So our main one's Comstock. Comstock's right here. Then we have one off of Golden Rain, entries 6 and 7, right here. So those are kind of the main ones that we have up front. We also have the dog park. Anybody know that the dog park is an emergency exit if it needs to be? It's also emergency entrance. So we're going to do we were going to do this. We were going to test the fire department and the police department. We're going to test their way in. So if we ever had to evacuate multiple zones, we got to open up all 4 lanes. So our incoming lanes would be reversed and they'd be going out. Because the whole idea is you want to get as many cars out of here as quickly as possible, right? So we want to move them out. So that would happen. Well, if you block all the things, how's the emergency vehicles going to get in here? Good question. The dog park. The dog park has been identified as the best way to get into here. So on May 15th, we were going to do that. We were going to have them come in that way so that the firemen are also used to using it. The police officers and firefighters also want to see what it's like to come in that way so they know about it. And we wanted to test, make sure everything works. We're going to leave it locked, see if the first fire truck that shows up, they know how to open it. Their lock is actually on the gate. There's 2 gates, and they can drive right across the dog park into here. But then someone said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you're probably going to rip the fabric and the seams and all that stuff. And sure, in a true emergency, but during an exercise, we don't want to cause harm and break things and have to pay for it. So we've changed it. So now we're going to actually we reversed it. So now we are actually going to leave some of the lanes into Rossmoor open, and we'll use the other 2 lanes, I believe is what the city wants to do now. So anyways, Tim, I didn't tell you that, but good thing I didn't break it, right? So. And then they'll set up at the gateway, and that's going to be the command post for this event, is going to be at the gateway. And the gateway is actually identified in our emergency operation plan as being the incident command location. So our command post would be there. We would be inside. We actually take over the boardroom. Thanks, Dwight. And then if for some reason we can't be in there, like let's say it's an earthquake and there's a structural issue, then we're outside into the parking lot. And that's what, like Steve and I are very used to doing that. We're always in the open when we set up an incident command post. All right. Let's move on now. Oh, wait, before we do though, and Dwight, you're probably going to talk about this, but I just want to illustrate it. The other thing what we did is we proposed to the board earlier this year for another emergency evacuation road. Identified was this right here. This is Gray Eagle Court, and it goes right along here, and it goes out to Castle Crest. It's only a quarter of a mile. It's a short distance. There's already a big dirt road in there. We got an estimate of about $500,000 to pave it and put up some guardrails because it is kind of steep and we want not people to drive off the cliff. And then, so the board actually approved that for next year. The problem being, though, we have to get permission from the homeowner or the landowner. And right now, he is reluctant to give it right now. The property is up for sale. So if you have $32 million, it's up for sale. If you do, that'd be great, because then we can maybe put in a road. Maybe, Fran, you want to buy that? That'd be great. It's really pretty views up there, too. And then also, what was really kind of cool about this is fire department currently doesn't have access from Castle Crest. It's a little bit higher. So when we went up with fire, they were all over this because they go, oh my gosh, that gives us another access point. So they're the lead agency in this. It's not GRF. We'll probably be the ones paying for the road if we do get it, but it helps us out tremendously. And the people in Castle Crest, they heard about it, and I've been receiving phone calls and emails. They are ecstatic about it because for them, there's only one way up, and they're on top of a hill surrounded by a bunch of vegetation. So they are excited to have another way out as well if their one exit is blocked. So that's that. So hopefully in the future, we might be able to sway him in order to let us do it. Since it's up for sale, he says, I don't want to do anything right now, but maybe in the future. All right, we already kind of talked about that. Access control, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and we have a new access control system that we bought. It includes security cameras at all different locations. It includes new access at the front gate where visitors and guests and contractors, they will be given a pass, and we will actually know their name. Right now we don't track people's names when they come in, and so our gate has kind of been known a little bit to be porous at times, and Steve and I are working to stop that, and this is going to be the best way that it will stop that. So if you get a pass, and then what they have is they have these little QR guns, so they read it. So if you have a pass, like let's say a family member comes to stay, and you go, oh, Aunt Sally's staying for a week. You can send her with your cell phone a QR code, and then when Aunt Sally pulls in and she gets to the gate, she shows them that. They scan it off her phone, they print this out, and then that's good for a week, and she has to keep it on her dash. If she goes to Safeway to go pick up some dinner for you or food, then when she comes back in, all she has to do is hold this up, and they scan it. They go, boop. So it should be pretty quick and easy, but for now on, we'll know. Also, automatic license plate readers are now going to be installed all there, so we'll know all the cars that come in, as well as all the cars leaving. So it'll make Rossmoor a lot more secure, so we're excited about that.
So let me get started. So welcome. First of all, I want to say, aren't we lucky to have Tom Cashion and Tim O'Keefe here? I mean, we are blessed in this community. I would also add that we're blessed to have EPO and all the great work that you guys do. You know, there are a lot of clubs, a lot of organizations here in Rossmoor. Lots of them have dancing and music. EPO, to the best of my knowledge, does not do that, but yet you perform one of the greatest functions that benefit all of the residents of Rossmoor, so really appreciate that. I just wanted to go over some things today that the board is doing. They're kind of futuristic in a way. And you think, why is he putting all those politicians up on the screen? Well, it turns out, I think it was back in September or October, I said to Tim, boy, there's a lot of funds coming down. The feds and the state have lots of money, whether it's infrastructure or fire mitigation, and it would be good to get in front of our elected representatives to talk to them. So with Tim's good guidance, we set up meetings during the month of February, and we met with all of these elected officials. And the two primary things that, and by the way, meeting were Tim and a couple board members. The two major items that we talked about were water conservation and fire mitigation. So just in terms of water conservation, it was a conversation, but we wanted to make sure that the politicians realized that we had undertaken a feasibility study on water reclamation. That is a project that is not funded yet. You know, it's expected to cost between $11 and $12 million, so that's something that we're looking for funding. So if they found some money along the way, we wanted to make sure that our hand was up and on their radar. We also wanted to talk to them about potential East Bay mud restrictions, which we've seen some come into place already here in the past week. But if our golf courses were forced to reduce water usage, they may not be green and safe as a refuge and evacuation area. We asked them if there was any pending litigation. There are some municipalities and governmental agencies looking at green spaces being protected for water usage. It was pretty unanimous among the group. There was nothing in the pipeline. Some of them were intrigued, but I can't report that there was any positive movement in regards to safety from that standpoint. Also want to mention that the board received a forest management plan back in February. A professional forester, really interesting to hear from somebody who deals with trees and vegetation every day, delivered that report. As you can see from the map, the black outline is the borders of Rossmoor. The yellow identifies 449 acres within our 1,800 acres that need to be treated for fire mitigation and wildfire resiliency. The important thing to note is a number of those areas might be, we hope to, have them addressed by the ConFire grant application that Tom mentioned. So we'll be coordinating with ConFire to see what other areas are not covered by their work and what we might need to do. Pretty interesting, the report identified 3,000 feet of overhead power lines running through those 449 acres. It's an important note to make. And we need to really make sure that Rossmoor remains fire safe. That is a priority for all of us. So in the forest management report, it talked about managing the ecosystem for a fire-resilient landscape that saves lives, benefits and protects our home, and benefits wildlife. And we made sure that we pointed out to the politicians that it may provide jobs that they can hang their hat on. And failing to implement the forest management plan projects would threaten not only Rossmoor, but the greater Walnut Creek area, Lafayette, and Moraga, and Alamo. And we need to be sure that we're working with them. So at the same time, and we didn't really realize it back in February, but late February, ConFire announced that they were applying for this $4.9 million grant that Tom mentioned. This is a slightly larger map that you can see. By the way, the red areas are the SRA that Tom mentioned, the state responsibility area that CAL FIRE is responsible for. It's out my back door, so I'm actually somewhat happy about that, but somewhat it's risky, I guess. But you can see in the red line, that is what, the red area, that is what ConFire is proposing as the shaded fire break. And so it begins in Moraga, actually, skirts along Lafayette, and then half of it, and by the way, half of that $4.9 million would be spent on GRF property to protect Rossmoor. So it is an amazing grant application that we wanted to be sure that everybody knows. So we went back to all of our elected representatives that we had just spoken to and said, hey, you want to make sure that you know about this, ask for your support. We went to the city councils of Walnut Creek and Lafayette, as well as the town council of Moraga. They all sent letters of support to CAL FIRE. So we hope that those efforts are fruitful in getting this grant application approved. The evacuation road, and Tom just mentioned this, but this is a map of showing where that road might go. And it is beautiful up there, but steep. So we hope that that can happen. So GRF Board is working on your behalf. ConFire, we love those guys. They are working on our behalf. And of course, all the Rossmoor staff is doing the same thing. It's great to have EPO in such a strong leadership position on emergency preparedness. And Fran, thank you for all of your efforts. They are just outstanding. But probably most important of all, and it came out in the evacuation meeting last week, and the question was, does GRF have a plan for disabled people? And Tom emphatically said, no, it's your responsibility. You have to have a plan. You're on your own. So don't think that your relatives can come speeding in during the evacuation time to get you out. It's up to you. So as Fran likes to say, have a plan, have a double plan, and make sure that you're prepared in the event of a disaster. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Bertolozzi. I'm the site manager here in Rossmoor for Securitas. So I've been here for a few months now, and it didn't take long for me to realize what the main issue was, at least in the minds of the residents here. They were concerned about the security at the gate. Am I right? Okay. So in the past few months, if you've noticed rotating employees at the front gate, it's because we're trying to find the right fit for Rossmoor. We understand that we cannot allow people to come through who do not belong here. So have you noticed the lines recently? A little longer than usual. We've been getting a lot of complaints from the guests, but we're doing the best we can to make certain that they belong. So that is what we're working on. This new system that we're going to be using, we're going to have so many cameras up. We're going to be covering the sidewalks. We have license plate readers that will let us know who's leaving and coming. So, and we'll be able to marry up those license plates with the residents and their guests, which I think is going to be really beneficial for us. I had two of my supervisors go out to a different site that already utilizes this system, and they are so excited to get started with it. I know we have a few of older guys working up there at the gate that are concerned about this new system, but I believe it's going to help them, and it's going to make them more efficient. So I think I'm hoping you have seen a difference in the last couple months. I truly do. There are still people who get through it at particular times, but I hope it's better than it was a few months ago. Is it? Yes. Okay, great. So the other thing that I wanted to discuss really quick is just the difference between what we offer as security officers here in Rossmoor and what I would like you people to understand during an emergency situation. We should not be the first call. If there is an emergency, call 911. Please. We need to get police and or fire en route. We have people here, but their job essentially is to observe and report. Okay, they're going to be great witnesses for everyone up here, but they are not suited to deal with certain issues, such as you might believe that your residence is getting broken into, right? Somebody's breaking down your front door. Your first call should be to 911. We will get that information via the police department. We will be great witnesses. We'll go up in the situation where we can observe, but I don't want our personnel contacting potential suspects. They are not equipped to do so. They are not armed. Okay? So do we understand the difference there? The other thing, too, is I want to make certain that everybody knows in an emergency, medical emergency situation, first call to 911, please. We do have EMTs 24/7 up here, and in all likelihood, they will get there before our paramedics, right? But we need to know that the paramedics are en route, and we don't have to call them after our personnel get there because we don't want that delay. Okay? So I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions about Securitas. I do have an open door policy. Come anytime. If I look frustrated, I am. But that's okay. I want you guys to come in and we'll discuss anything you have on your mind. Our job together, collectively, is to make our community as safe as possible. And I need you to tell me what we can be doing better. And I hope you do so. Okay? Thank you.
Everybody, my name is John Tawaststjerna. I'm the new landscape manager up at MOD. I've only been here about a month, but you know, I do know Rossmoor fairly well from working in the Valley for a little while, but you know, it's an exciting new job for me and excited to work and meet all of you. I'm just going to talk about a few landscape maintenance things that are going on right now to, you know, help prevent fires and fire prevention in general. Currently, we have some of the MOD crews are going to begin some of their weed abatement activities in the trust properties. Some of those areas, you know, like behind the dog park, those sloping hills, and, you know, along hillside back near the bocce ball courts. There's a lot of weeds that grow in those areas, and now's the time to be cutting those down. Similarly, the landscape maintenance contractors, Brightview and Terra, they'll be doing a lot of that work in the mutuals. Part of the law and what is recommended by the fire department is that they're supposed to provide 100 feet of defensible space away from all buildings. That's actually included in the contract between both of those contractors, and so they'll be out there. You'll see them working in those areas right now over the next 4 weeks or so. Some other work that we're doing on the trust properties is up along Stanley Dollar. There's a fire break right along the property line. You'll see some workers up there creating a larger area, you know, so if there is a fire, there is some sort of space there that, you know, doesn't catch fire rapidly. Other items, I've been sending out the arborist, Steve Ormond, to look at a lot of the trees, you know, in some of those outside areas, because one of the rules is that there needs to be 6 foot of clearance between the ground and the lowest tree trunks. So, you know, if you see behind your home any trees that are very close to the ground, trunks-wise, you know, you can call MOD, the work order desk, submit that work order, and then we'll probably have someone come out to prune that tree. Other rules is with trees is that the shrubs below there needs to be a 3 times the height of the shrub underneath the tree. So that creates even more defensible space, so that tree doesn't just light up rapidly. Other items that we're doing right now is still juniper removals. I know you all have been seeing that going on. A lot of the mutuals have already removed a lot of their juniper. There isn't any at all left. I even have a meeting this afternoon to go get a proposal to remove juniper in one of the mutuals. So it's something that it'll be ongoing. And we are trying to get grants from the Diablo Fire Safety Council for that work. It's a 2-year process. They said it's taken a lot longer than what we want to get that money, but hopefully it should come, in the next year or so. I've also been in touch with Chris Giddis from the fire department, Contra Costa County, and he came out, drove through Rossmoor last week. He said there wasn't anything of immediate concern, but he really wanted us to get started on the weed abatement activity. And I also let him know that there's a couple of those fire roads that really need some routine maintenance activities. So he got in touch with the fire trail department for me, the maintenance team, and they should be going up along those fire roads to do some sort of general maintenance and cleaning and whatnot. Other than that, that's really all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. That's great. I'd like to introduce our past president of Rossmoor EPO. She served for 5 wonderful years, Colene Reams-Trinterud, and she is now our blood program lead for our quarterly blood donor clinics we hold here in conjunction with Golden Rain Foundation and Northern California Red Cross. And I'm sure many of you are following the amazing, awesome work that Red Cross is doing in Ukraine. Just amazing. So this is Colleen, and she's going to talk about the next several blood clinics we have here. Blood is absolutely essential, and donorships and the amount of blood during the pandemic has gone down. So here is an easy way, if you're a Rossmoor resident, to come and give blood and save a life. Thank you.
Thank you, and mostly thank you to everybody here who's given blood here. Thank you. That's really, really important. And also the GRF Board and everybody here. To me, it was kind of a natural from being a president of EPO going into working with the Red Cross and giving another area that the Rossmoor people could support. And we've gotten so much support. So the reason a lot of the blood donors didn't go to the meeting last Wednesday is because we were giving a blood drive here in this room. And it ran over. So I just want to say that it was a really great blood drive. It was really sad we had to cancel the one in January, but everybody was really behind the one that we just had, except for 4 people that were no-shows that were really sad. But anyway, we had 43 sign-ups for the blood drive and 36 actual units that were good that went to the Red Cross. And there's another area that I just want to kind of educate you a little bit on. It's called Power Reds, because you give 2 units for the price of 1, and then they put the liquids back into your body. But you have to have a few requirements for that, and that's O positive, O negative, A negative, and B negative. You also have to be and I don't understand this, but the men only have to be 5'1" and weigh 130 pounds, but the women have to be 5'5" and weigh 150 pounds. So anyway, in 3 years of giving the blood drives, we have given 239 units of blood. And it's important to remember that every unit of blood can save 3 lives. And people are really saying here in Rossmoor that they really like giving it here in Rossmoor. So we give quarterly drives here. And just to let you know where our blood is going, it's the last, not the one we just gave, but the one before, went to UCSF Medical Center, UC Davis Medical Center, UCSF Mission Bay, Permanente, and John Muir Medical Center right here on the campus of Concord. So it's really, really making a difference. To let you know that we are still in that blood shortage that they've been talking about, and that's for many reasons, but we're still there. Hopefully they say it's probably going to go on until this summer. So our next blood drive is July 15th, and actually most of the blood spot appointments are full except for the Power Reds. So if you can do a Power Red, we really need more Power Reds. And the one for October is still has spots. I'm considering maybe starting another blood drive so that people will have more. And also I have a lot of information on Ukraine that Fran mentioned, so if you want to know anything about that, you can ask me. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Colin. Jerry Priebat is going to talk to us about CB radio communications. But before he gets started, Harris, whatever room you're in the back, would you please go to the main room? And Marcia McLean, please come with him as well. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jerry Priebat. I've lived here in Rossmoor 31 years, so I'm going to give you a brief history as to how we got to citizen band radios. After the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 and the Oakland-Berkeley fire in 1991, the Golden Rain Foundation created an earthquake preparedness committee, which was one of the GRF Board committees. We decided that ought to be expanded to Emergency Preparedness Committee. In other words, earthquakes, firestorms, things of that sort. In those days, cell phones were not nearly as popular and available as they are now. So the committee said, well, after a major emergency, how can we communicate requests for help from individual entries to the incident command center that in those days Golden Rain Foundation would be manning? So people said, you know, citizen band radios have been very popular over the years by truckers and RV owners. Why don't we set up a citizen band radio emergency network here in Rossmoor, which we did in about 26 years ago. The Golden Rain Foundation bought a main base station, CB base station, which today is located in the closet of multipurpose room 3. GRF also purchased a backup power supply, and then GRF purchased a secondary base station for the front gate, because the thought was once the earth stopped shaking, the front gate would turn on their CB base station and listen for any requests for help, as well as issuing instructions to residents over the CB network. A few years ago, we had a major power failure in Rossmoor. The substation up on the hill got struck by lightning. There was no electricity in Rossmoor. There was no telephone service. The cell towers didn't have any power. So the only method of communication was CB radios, which are self-powered. And of course, at our base station, we had the backup power supply. So my request to you folks this morning is we need more CB operators throughout our Rossmoor entries. As people have gotten older and gotten used to cell phones, they haven't thought about CB radios as a method of communicating in an emergency. So CB radios are available at Amazon, also at Fry's Electronics. Something like this handheld unit sells for about $45. We practice using the CB network every Saturday morning from 8 till 8:30 on CB channel 40, not TV channel 40, CB channel 40. And we broadcast from our base station in multipurpose room 3. We also ask the security people at the front gate to test their secondary base station, and they come on the air. So the reason I'm here this morning is to say to you, we need more CB operators around Rossmoor. People have gotten too dependent on cell phones, which may not work in a real emergency. So if you need any more information about it, you can contact me. There was an article in this week's Rossmoor News about CB radios, including my phone number. So feel free to give me a call. If you do have a CB and you haven't been on the air for a while, please join us on Saturday morning on Channel 40 between 8 and 8:30. So I'll be available for questions at the end of this meeting. Thank you for your attention, and please remember we can communicate in emergencies using this past technology of citizen band radios. Thank you.
All right, if Mr. Harris Greenberg would move to the center of the room, please. It's about time you, Harris. Harris is our high-tech coordinator for Rossmoor EPO and for Rossmoor area CERT. He is an absolute ace tech stuff. And Marcia and I would like to commend him, and the differences in our two certificates of achievement. She says I speak in longhand. I am a Southerner, and oral tradition is big in my culture, and Marcia speaks in shorthand. So Harris, I want to thank you. I've never worked with a smarter volunteer, and I have been president of 2 statewide California nonprofits. You are amazing at this stuff. You take all our questions, particularly mine, and he handles them very well, because high-tech I am not, but Harris is. So Harris, I want to read this to you, the long version. For your unmatched and generous high technology contributions to tangibly readying Rossmoor residents to get themselves and their households more fully prepared for a disaster and emergency, we thank you. For being a model force for benevolence, selflessness, and service that should inspire all EPO members to match your unparalleled volunteer passion, spirit, and energy, and step up like you have done to offer their gifts and talents to our mission and to our community. For your innovative championing and tireless commitment ensuring our emergency preparedness messaging is accessible, this is really important to me, accessible and respectful for all residents living here. Some of us have special needs as residents, and we who do emergency preparedness messaging need to be aware of that and always seek to make sure that we have not left anyone in this community out. And for meeting every high-tech challenge with expertise, grace, intellect, and foresight, you ensure that EPO can better meet its core mission and make a positive and an enduring difference in the well-being and safety of all in Rossmoor. I'm near tears. I just want to thank you. You are amazing. This is the person who takes our programming, and within a day he will have edited the Zoom, get it back to me for my approval, and put it to the YouTube channel, and we post it on our rossmoorepo.org website. Harris, you are amazing, and we are very fortunate in Rossmoor, in EPO, and in CERT to have you.
And in fact, I'm Marcia McLean. I'm the Rossmoor Area Coordinator for Walnut Creek CERT. I do speak in shorthand, sometimes even 30 seconds, so it won't take very long. But on behalf of the City of Walnut Creek and Walnut Creek CERT, Harris Greenberg for providing valuable technical and electric media support during COVID-19 pandemic. Without this support, the Walnut Creek CERT Rossmoor area would have not been able to continue to provide excellent training to its volunteers. And you know what, Harris? What you've done, we've been able to have a Zoom for almost 2.5 years, and if without Harris helping us and putting us together, we would not have been able to do what we do. So once again, behalf on Rossmoor area CERT and behalf of Walnut Creek CERT, thank you.
Yay! All right, let's get to the questions. And we have quite a number. I'm just going to read them, and if you know it's your territory, jump in and answer the question, please. This is a landscaping question for you, John. Lawn sprinklers appear not to be reduced for the drought. What's that about? And also, sprinklers are wasting water with over-watering.
So I'm sure all of you saw some of the regulations that East Bay Mud put on us on April 26th last week. One of them is that irrigating is only supposed to happen 3 times a week. Now for us, it's a little different. 3 times a week means individual stations. So let's say a single turf area, that only is allowed to come on 3 times a week. It does not mean we're only allowed to water on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, per se. So we are working. We have a great system called ET Water where we can adjust all the controllers online, and most of them have already been changed, but we still have a few more controllers to get through to change down every station to watering only 3 days. Irrigation inspections are also ongoing. So for the overspray part of that question, technicians will be out on site, walking around, turning on every single valve, and making sure there isn't overspray, that the heads are adjusted properly, and we're not wasting any water, because we all know it's really important. Hopefully that answers whoever question that was.
Okay, John, hang on. What are the plans in progress for reducing the number of Monterey pines, and do they have to be dying before removing? Repeat the question because we couldn't hear it.
You want me to repeat it? Yes. So the question's about Monterey pines, what the process is for removal right now. A lot of them are dying out very quickly, so those ones are very easy to get permits from the City of Walnut Creek. But sometimes we apply for a permit and we do not get it for tree removal. We're trying to phase these out as fast as possible. They are a large cost because they're such huge trees, but every little bit that we can do systematically is kind of the way it's going. But sometimes we apply for the permit and we don't get it because City of Walnut Creek believes that it's still a very healthy tree. So.
That's it. Thank you. Great. Tom, a question for you. Can you explain again, please, the different levels the county uses for fire alerts?
Different levels. I'm confused on that question.
It says repeat terminology at levels. I'm not sure I understand the question. Whose question is this, please? Anybody here? It may be on the Zoom. I don't know what that goes to. Here's one, and this may be yours too, Tom. I need to be in Oakland on the 15th and would normally leave here at 9 or 9:30. Am I going to be able to do this on May 15th?
Phew, I thought it was actually a math question. A train leaves Pennsylvania and another one leaves California. When are they going to cross if they're 60 miles an hour? Okay, good. Yeah, you'll be fine. The actual exercise will start at 7 o'clock. That's where the residents who are participating in the exercise will receive a phone call from the county warning system, and it'll direct them that this is a drill to emulate a fire evacuation. Please evacuate your zone and go to Heather Farm Park. So that will happen at 7 o'clock. It's kind of cool. The county warning system actually does that, and what we saw when we did the Lakewood exercise, it was done within 30 seconds. All of the calls had already been placed and were out in 30 seconds. So I anticipate that we will have all the participants out of Rossmoor in about 30 minutes or less. And then at that time, once we're comfortable that that's happened, we will then open up all the roads in Rossmoor. So there will be a delay. Plan on there being a delay from about 6:50 in the morning to about 7:30 at the latest.
Thank you.
Fran, could I do a follow-up
Fran,
on that?
if I may clarify, the question that was coming in about the evacuation notices, the levels, I think the question was about, first you start off with an alert before you get to an evacuation, and I think there are actually maybe 2 or 3 levels in that list of categories that the question was about. I mean, first there's a red flag warning, for example. Then there's another level before, and then there's the evacuation notice. And that's handled by the city.
I think, sorry, I could only hear certain parts of what you were saying, Harris. By the way, you sound like God above us right now.
In
Yeah.
some books,
The
yes.
volume's being controlled by the IT tech in the room.
So what the civil authorities will do, a lot of times they do a warning first, and then after a warning, then it becomes a mandatory evacuation if the need arises. One thing that they learned about Paradise is, unfortunately, those residents waited and waited and waited, expecting to get a call or somebody knocking on their door. We have changed our philosophy that if you feel uncomfortable, self-evacuate. Meaning if you see clouds of smoke coming from Las Trampas Wilderness and you don't feel comfortable here, it's probably a good idea that you leave. The more people that leave before actual mandatory evacuation is called, it's safer for everybody, right? There's less cars here, less people, right? Less traffic jam, all of that. So it is a big benefit that people do self-evacuate. So if you don't feel comfortable, please self-evacuate. One thing we're seeing now is we call evacuations. I say we, I'm not even with the police department anymore. I forget, I'm not there anymore. But what the police departments do now is they call them a lot earlier. If you saw with the fires in El Dorado County last year, they evacuated South Lake Tahoe extremely early, right? And there was people all backed up, right? Took a long time to get them all out of there. And the fire never did get close to South Lake Tahoe, but in abundance of caution, we're calling them a lot earlier. So if it's called, please, please, please do what is requested of you or required of you. Don't just sit there and think, oh, I'll be fine. All you do is you cause more havoc and work for our first responders for not leaving.
Great. I think this is also for you. This question has not been answered to my satisfaction. During an evacuation, how will residents from each entry in the same zone be controlled onto the major roads here in Rossmoor?
Well, so I'll speculate what Walnut Creek Police Department would do. So if you're in your entry, it's your responsibility to get out of your entry. There's not going to be traffic control in your entry. However, if there is an evacuation, first responders are going to go into every entry and they're going to knock on every door. Hopefully you've received the message through either Nixle or the county warning system before that. Those are for people for some reason missed every single communication, and the police do go door by door by door and tell people to get out. Traffic control will be further along. There's certain control points all throughout Rossmoor, which was fantastic when Tim was talking about the emergency management zones. That was phenomenal. Our consultant did that, and he really, it's kind of how we were already laid out, but the traffic control zones and the zones are just fantastic because you can shut off different zones that are not in immediate threat and then allow the ones that are in immediate threat to go through first. So just a fantastic operation.
Thank you. At last Wednesday's meeting, they said in an evacuation, we have to take care of our neighbors who are incapacitated. In my fourplex, there's someone in each living unit who would need help evacuating, and we live way up on Ptarmigan. How can we do that? What do these neighbors who need assistance, where do they turn?
That's quite easy. Neighbors. We are a community. Community means we work together to help each other. That's why you guys are here, is that you want to help others and save others in cases of dire emergencies. So in that respect, what could they do? It sounds like they're in a different location. By all means, reach out. Ask them if they have a plan. If they don't have a plan, help them develop a plan. Reach out to their next door neighbors and try to arrange something that if something does happen, you're going to be willing to help them out of their entry or out of their manor and get them to a place of safety.
And remember, on a Rossmoor Nixle, a Walnut Creek Nixle, or the community warning system from the county, you will be given specific instructions of what to do. And part of that instruction is if there are shelters that are open nearby, those will be listed for you, so you will know. It's very important that everybody in here sign up for the community warning system. Tom said it's on rossmoor.com's website. It's also on rossmoorepo.org website. And resident resources are starred, and it tells you exactly what to do and how to get the community warning system on your phone. It's very important, and we won't hear from the county unless it's a life and death issue. So there won't be any water main breaks. There will be just life and death safety messages for county residents. So be sure you are signed up for that. One more for you, I think, Tom. Our evacuation zone sign is white lettering on a yellow background. It's hard to read. Can the sign be changed to black lettering? She's in the 00, or he is in the 004 zone, evacuation zone.
Yeah, we could probably do something like that. Let me look into that. It's going to be a while before we can actually change that. But yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, let me look into it.
And then I think this might be close to the last question. I've heard multiple references today establishing that we can't tell the mutuals what to do. How do we as residents know if our mutual is doing a good job at fire resilience or wildfire resilience or any other issue that's important to us? You want to take that?
I don't think there's really an answer to that one. As I said at the outset, Golden Rain Foundation has no legal jurisdiction over the mutuals. They are independent corporations with their own bylaws, their own board of directors. But there's a common misunderstanding among residents in the community that Golden Rain Foundation somehow sits above the mutuals. The mutuals are here and GRF is here. It's not that way. It's more like this. So I would recommend that anybody that has any issues or questions or concerns about either the policies of their mutual, their disaster preparedness, or whatever mitigation, vegetation mitigation for fire, any of those things, attend your board meeting and ask the landscape committee if there's questions about, their fire mitigation policies, or if there's anything else around the governance of your mutual. It's not the Golden Rain Foundation to come to. It is your mutual board of directors and their various committees.
Harris and I sit on Third Mutual's Emergency Preparedness Committee, and we are very active in trying to get the message out to Third Mutual residents. This has been great. I want to note a couple of things. I want to thank Dwight Walker for honoring me by inviting me to participate in the drafting of the letter that went to the local elected officials for this wonderful $4.9 million fuel break grant. I was very honored, Dwight. Thank you very much. And also I want to remind you that we have this is an EPO initiative. It is a front door of your manor. evacuation notice that you can print out, put it in a plastic bag. What I'm doing is we're going around our neighbors in entry 16 on Terra Granada Drive, and there are 4 Band-Aids from the dollar store. You have this taped to the front door. That is one less house that the first responder has to check if we have a wildfire that's incapacitating a zone or several zones. So please do this. Just put it in a plastic bag, put it atop one of your grab-and-go bags, and it'll be there at the ready. And we can save first responders precious minutes, and we need to be able to do that. I did this in my North Berkeley neighborhood, and I vetted it first with Tom and then Chief Jamie Knox with the Walnut Creek Police Department and Chris Bachman with Con Fire, and they all approve it. So this would be one less house that has to be checked if you get a mandatory evacuation or you leave voluntarily. So please look for this, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our GRF leadership. You've been wonderful. We are proud to partner with you. When I first became president of Rossmoor EPO, I told you my magic word was intersectionality. Tim's mission is different than ours. Tom's mission is different than ours. Dwight's mission is different than EPO's. Steve and John's mission is different. But how can we work together to keep this vulnerable senior community as safe as we can? FEMA does a study every year, and we are the 65-plus seniors carry the highest risk in any type disaster, whether it's natural or man-made. We're going to suffer the highest mortality and morbidity of anybody. And yet, in this annual study every year, seniors 65 and above, only a quarter of them are prepared for a disaster or an emergency that would strike. So please take the word home. Ask your neighbors if they have a grab-and-go bag. It's time to get that together as we go into what I think is going to be a difficult fire season, to say the least, given the drought, given all the pressures of the new climate regime. I want to thank Nancy Herney for being our great questions collector at the back. Marvelous work, as usual. And I want to thank all my EPO team members at the local level who work so hard in their neighborhood to help prepare their neighbors for a disaster, for an emergency that could strike Tice Valley and beyond. You guys rock. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.